the soul, while it is on earth, depends on the senses for perception. But there are souls that can be quite sensitive, and there is an element of communication that can go on. It is interesting to pick up what comes in these intuitions that come from the beyond, that actually the whole world of souls is a powerful reality, and that we need to be aware of the power of our soul and also of its reality. Essentially, our reality is our truth, and to realize what we are and are not is a very liberating factor. We then avoid the suffering that comes from illusion. Do you recognize each other in purgatory? Asks the nun who is making penance for the other who is in purgatory. Yes, after the manner of souls. There are no names in the other world. Purgatory must not be likened to earth. When the soul is free and rid of its mortal encasing, its name is buried in the grave with its body. I can explain to you a tiny bit of what purgatory is like, and you have a slightly greater understanding of it than others through the light that God gives you. But what's this tiny bit compared with the reality? We are here lost in the will of God. Now there's freedom there, because the will has abdicated over the cosmos, and in its place has come the divine will. So the freedom is total, and until we do that, we are in bondage to ourselves. We are here lost in the will of God, whereas on earth, no matter how holy you are, you always keep your own will. We, for our part, just have no more of it. So, if we work on that element of agility which comes from not being clingy or bound up with anything which is lower than the soul, then we can actually fly already, insofar as we have no preference, and God can do with us what He will. We, for our part, have no more of it. We know and are aware of what it pleases God to let us know. That alone, and nothing further. Do you speak to one another in purgatory? Souls communicate with each other when God allows it, as souls do, but without words. Now here is something interesting, for even in human experience, our deepest communication goes beyond words, and at times words can impede it. And so wordy souls are not good communicators. At times, if one is with a person with a very serious problem, the best ministry is that of being there without saying anything, or hardly anything, because words would not be sufficient, whereas a profound felt silence is a presence which half encounters the depth of pain before us. Words can be very glib. Yes, now then, this question of words. The other one says, obviously, that but she is speaking to her using words. Yes, granted, I do speak to you, but you are a spirit. No, the question is, are you a spirit? Would you understand me did I not pronounce the words? But as for me, since God wills it thus, I'm able to understand you without your having to pronounce the words with your lips. Now that is a help to us to understand prayer. We can be understood on high. Now when we invoke our God, definitely there's omniscience coming in there. Our Lady participates in God's knowledge far more than any other. Now the saints, we can presume therefore that even if we don't move our lips, the words, or at least the message, can reach them through God's intervention. Yes, there is communication between souls, between spirits, even without death. Thus, when you have a good thought, a good desire, they've often been communicated to you by your guardian angel or by some other saint, sometimes by God himself. You have there an example of the language of souls. Where is purgatory situated? Is it in a confined place? It's in the center of the earth, near hell, as you saw it one day after Holy Communion. The souls there are in a confined space in comparison with the huge number to be found in it, because there are thousands upon thousands of souls there. But how much room does a soul take? Every day several thousands come in, and the best part are there for 30 or 40 years. Some considerably longer, others less. All this I'm telling you in earthly calculations, because where we are, it's all different. If people only knew, if they but had some idea of what purgatory is. And when you think that it's through your own fault that you're there. I've been here for 8 years. It seems as though 10,000 years had gone by. And it goes on. Then she wants him to make known to this priest something about this reality. Let him learn from my experience. This is the priest that she's allowed to tell about what's going on. Let him learn from my experience what this place of suffering exactly is, for him to make it better known in the future. He can prove for himself how profitable devotion to the souls in purgatory is. Now here we're coming to a secret. God often grants more graces through the intermediary of these suffering souls than through the saints themselves. When he wants to be really sure of obtaining something, let him address himself preferably to the souls who have had the greatest love for Our Lady, the ones, namely, that this good mother desires in consequence to deliver. And then let him tell you whether or not he was glad to have done so. Now that's a tip. Here's another interesting point. There are also a certain number of souls who don't dwell in what is, strictly speaking, purgatory. Thus I myself accompany you during the day wherever you go, but at night, when you're resting, my suffering is greater. I'm then in purgatory. Other souls do their purgatory in the places in which they have sinned, or at the feet of the holy altars where the Blessed Sacrament resides. But wherever they are, they bear continually their sufferings with them, even though these are a little less intense than in purgatory itself. And back now to the question of the divine will. In purgatory, of course, the will is completely unified, and even though they suffer in the divine will, and are glad to do so. Father was quite right in telling you never to seek anything but the holy will of God in all you do. This will be your joy, seeing his will in all that comes your way, sufferings and joys. Everything, without exception, comes from Jesus. That rejoins what was given to our own Blessed Julian of Norwich centuries ago in her reclusory, that there is a hand that guides, and we call it providence. And therefore that gives us certain freedom before the will of God as it comes to us in the event. God writes straight with crooked lines. There's nothing that happens to us without divine permission. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. So as long as we're heading for heaven, we are doing our purgatory here on earth, and if it's not complete, we will do it in the antechamber, which is purgatory itself, of which there are levels. Now, the big tragedy in the cosmos for any soul is not to make it ultimately even to purgatory. And few people seem to realize that that is the one thing that matters. If one loses one's soul, one has really messed up all irreversibly. And sometimes it hits me what it would be to wake up 1 second after one's last breath and found that one hadn't actually made it. Before that, everything else is somewhat relative. So I wrote this meditating on that profound truth. It's based on Matthew 25, verse 30. The Lord himself used the expression more than once, grinding of teeth. When I think upon what on and on shall go with ne'er a pause, when I behold the power of one day done, the fact of once an act, defect a cause can have upon an aeon that shall not conclude its long beginning. When a while I get a thought where wrought and forgot was some sweet mirth that on the earth did smile. Then here, safe for this flame, I breathe a sigh of sorrow for a morrow that comes near, upon the night of sinning that was high in bliss, ere its long kiss, its gazing bare, its eyelids oped again, where pain alone in demon hiss is no,